Stand by, Mike. Here we go. Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stay tuned for a live broadcast of the PAC meeting starting at 9 a.m.
This microphone is showing red. Hey, sometimes the microphone shows red but still works. All right, I'm going to start that paragraph again. I remind those in the audience and those watching on TV that this is the first hearing of any rezoning, text change, or special exception request brought before us today. We will first hear a reading of the staff report for the case by planning staff and ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. We'll then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against the request or to inquire about that request. The commissioners will have any needed discussion on the case. Once a motion is made and seconded by the commission, a vote will take place and a recommendation will be rendered. The case will go back to the planning department for their independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to the city council with the 2 independent recommendations. If the planning department makes a recommendation for denial, the applicant will have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the clerk of council that they are requesting to be placed on the city council's agenda. The City Council of Columbus will hold a public meeting called the first reading. Said council shall consider the case, review Planning Commission and Planning Department recommendations, and hear discussion on the matter. Council will make a final decision at a second public meeting called the second reading. Our first agenda item for today is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was February 18th. Commissioners, do you have any questions on those? Okay, would a commissioner make a motion to approve those? Thank you, sir. Second, thank you, sir. All right. Okay, before we get started, thank y'all for being here. We are not in our normal room, so if you see us fumble around with microphones, that's because we're not usually in this room. But I think as you come and you have something to share, we're going to ask you to come to this podium, I believe. And there's a microphone there that has a button. If you will just push the little person icon, you should be able to speak and we'll hear you. There are 2 things on the agenda today. The first one is a rezoning case that has nothing to do with any data center. Everybody understand that? Okay. The second one we'll talk about after we get done with the first one because we want to honor everyone's time. So the first case that we've got to deal with today is REZN 02260189, which is a request to rezone 12.8 acres of land located at 5306 Buena Vista Road. The current zoning is a single-family residential 2, SFR2. Proposed zoning is residential multifamily 1, RMF1, with condition. The proposed use is residential multifamily. Integrity Development is the applicant. The property is located in Council District 4. Can we hear the staff report on this, please? I have to give him.
Is it working now? Okay. So,
Which
okay.
one is it?
Start that over. General land use is inconsistent for planning area E. The current land use designation is vacant, undeveloped. The future is single-family residential. It is not compatible with the existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area of the floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to an issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. Property is served by all city services. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of CCG for residential usage. The proposed 160-unit apartment development will generate approximately 1,064 new daily trips, 91 p.m. peak hour trips. The traffic impact is moderate and manageable. Ongoing major infrastructure upgrades by GDOT to the spider web improvements, the DDI 185 and road widening will significantly increase corridor capacity and mitigate impacts. The rezoning from SFR2 to RMF1 is traffic feasible given the arterial nature of Buena Vista Road. There'll be no school impact. The site shall include a Category B buffer along all property lines. Those options under B are 15 feet with a certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses, 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, and a wood fence or masonry wall, or 20 feet undisturbed natural buffer. There's no Fort Moore recommendation, no DRI recommendation. The surrounding zoning to the north is SFR2 and neighborhood commercial. To the south, east, and west is SFR3. 55 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received 4 calls this week in opposition. The additional information, 160 units proposed will be 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units and will be built in 2 phases. And again, just to go over the condition, that condition is to increase the maximum allowable height to 45 feet.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions? Can you run, I was figuring out how to work these microphones. Can you run through compatibility again, consistent, inconsistent?
This just becomes inconsistent because it's an RMF multifamily use versus in that area we would be looking for single family use typically single-family homes versus an apartment complex or townhomes.
Future land use is still single-family?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is the applicant here? Thank you, sir. Will you come to this microphone and give us your name and address and tell us about what you're planning? No.
Now? Okay. Hey, good morning. My name's Carter Brown. I'm with IDP Properties, the applicant for the rezone at 5306 Buena Vista Road. So we are proposing a rezone for the 12.5 acres. It is our opinion based off of significant housing need in the Columbus area, that the highest and best use for this property would be multifamily. I do want to clarify that what is shown on the site plan is 160 units. That was put on there purely from a transparency perspective that says if this property is rezoned based off this rezoning, here is the max density that this property could be allowed. Looking at our current plan, if approved, we would be at about 60 to 70 units on phase one. We don't even know if we would do a phase two. Again, this was just to show if we did max out the density on the property in the future, what that would look like. As of right now, our plan is to do one phase between 60 and 70 units.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions?
So what would be the price point of these units?
So it would be income restricted apartments. So we would be competing in Georgia's state and federal low-income housing tax credit program. So if awarded, it would be restricted to 50 and 60% of area median income, which the price of those, it does, as that is updated, it changes. But right now, on a one-bedroom, that would be about $580 a month on the low end, $725 on the high end. On a two-bedroom, $700 a month on the low end, $850 on the high end, and on a three-bedroom, $800 on the low end and $995 on the high end. So it'd be income restricted. Again, that is assuming we were awarded low-income housing tax credits.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Okay, I think most of you all are here for something else, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for this particular request? Just being sure that you are speaking on behalf of the request for Buena Vista Road.
I'm here for the data center, but I have an opinion on that other issue.
Okay, let's keep it to this particular issue. So yes, you're welcome to come up. Yes, sir.
So,
Yeah, you just step off to the side. Thank you.
I'm Tim Ryan. I live on Willow Bend Run. I've been a resident here for about 5 years, and I'm a homeowner. I've been a homeowner for about 10 years, so I rented for about 20 years. And I just want to say we do not have enough rental properties here, and we need to bring the rental prices down. They've just been skyrocketing. Affordability is a big issue for all of America right now, and Georgia and Columbus. So I would encourage you to approve this change. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else want to speak for or against this particular request? Again, particularly for this property on Buena Vista Road. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hi.
Let's move that microphone down, if
sorry.
you will. That's okay.
I feel like I'm at the Grammys
I'm a short
now.
guy, I understand.
See, I'm already a star. No, the only reason.
Hey, give us your name and address.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Sheila Friedel, and I live at 5255 Brinkman Street, which is going to be a property directly behind this development.
Okay.
And I have some concerns, obviously, about things like water runoff, possible water runoff issues, putting up a lot of concrete in that area, getting rid of all the vegetation, to build the property. If there's going to be a burden on the sewer system or the water systems. Obviously, I missed the very first part of the meeting because I went over to the original place where it's going to be held. But Just burden on internet and phone systems possibly, extra traffic, obviously. It could raise crime in the area, though I do know people need housing. I understand that. I just think that particular neighborhood, it seems to me after being there a little over 2 years, it's, you know, quite a tight little area to be cramming a bunch more people in there. And possible property value decrease for me. And I know my neighbor, she had actually brought me the letter that this was taking place because for some reason I never got a notice that this hearing was happening. So I don't know who to talk to about that afterward to see if I'm on a list or not. And then, yeah, like I said, just the congestion. So not to mention that this is like the minor part of it, but the wildlife in the area. We have a lot of deer that come through there and things like that. So I just think about that too, but.
Okay.
It just seems like it'll change the whole vibe of the entire neighborhood in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Commissioners, any questions on this? Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, you are behind where he's getting ready to build,
right.
and you had problems.
I think it might be the phase 2 that, you know, it's a little hard to tell from the drawing, you know, but we're like directly behind that, me and my neighbor.
Right.
And I think it's that second, the big L-shaped building that you showed on the original.
That's correct. I guess where you are proximity-wise. Again, that's a conceptual site plan to show what the max.
Come over to
Yeah.
the microphone if you will.
Okay. That's all right. She is correct. So that would, again, it's a conceptual site plan to show what the max density, you know, what we could actually develop there if we were to pursue the max density under the zoning that we were requesting. Again, phase 2 is a to be determined. It may never happen. Again, we could have taken the approach that said, hey, we're just going to show phase 1 on here, and then 5 years from now, submit a plan for phase 2. But again, we like to be transparent and upfront and show you, okay, here's what the site is, what is allowable on the site based off that zoning. To answer a few questions would be, we're proposing a 20-foot natural buffer around the entire site, so that would limit any of the impact to the surrounding neighbors.
Can I ask what kind of buffer?
A natural buffer, just leaving a 20-foot natural buffer there.
Okay.
We're addressing all of the stormwater runoff, all of that would be addressed on site per any kind of building codes, anything that would be required.
And that would be a requirement from the county as well.
Exactly. So we would meet all of that. But happy to answer any other questions.
I have a question.
Thanks.
Excuse me, I have a question for you, sir.
Sure.
You have no pictures to show how it will look?
It should be in the application. We put architectural inspiration photos in there. We showed a complete scale site plan. What we'd be proposing is 3-story brick exterior apartments in a mix of 1 and 2 and 3 bedrooms. Based again on the study that was done by Georgia Tech and your comprehensive plan, there is a massive need for housing across all income levels in the city of Columbus. And so again, we feel like this really meets a need in your city. And so we were excited about the proposal, and hopefully you guys would approve this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, wanting to know if you had an opportunity for transparency. I know she mentioned that she didn't receive a letter or anything. How did you or your company, did you get out to maybe talk to some of the residents or anything sent to the residents about the future plans?
Sure. So we went through all the zoning protocol requirements. Again, we're an out-of-town developer, and so we met with the planning and zoning department, went through all of those requirements. I personally reached out to the council person in that district, had several phone calls with them, sent them the plans and everything. So again, I feel like we were very transparent about the process.
Mr. Renfro, give an answer from the county's perspective on that, if you will, please.
Sure. Excuse me, the letters are sent out 300 feet to the surrounding property line to all residents that touch the property. You should have received a letter. Since you technically do, we're happy to get with you after the fact so that when we send out the next round of letters that you receive it.
So just for everyone's reference going forward, if you are a resident in your home, but you don't own that home, that letter is going to go to the owner of the property. So if you are a renter at your property, even if you are within the 300 feet in this case, you may not receive that letter because the owner of record for that property is going to receive that letter, just so everybody's on the same page. Okay?
And then one other item is we did engage a very reputable traffic study to go ahead on the front end and take a look at the daily trips. We've got the initial memo report that we're happy to share. And then we've also, again, worked, I think it just shows our transparency. I've been working with planning and zoning, and one of the comments that came up, again, this is kind of a proactive approach of reaching out and seeing what requirements may be in the future, which would be a decel lane turning into the property. And so we're aware of that and have updated the site plan to include that. Again, so I think it just shows to our transparency and our willingness to work with the city on what those requirements are.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So what would be the difference in density if it was a single-family home versus the multifamily?
Depending, I mean, it's 12.8 acres, depending on the actual buildable land. I mean, technically, they could get roughly 4 houses per acre, just give or take. So, I mean, that's basically what you're looking at.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? And anyone else in the audience like to speak for, again, we are only talking about Buena Vista Road right now. Okay, yes, ma'am, if you will come to the podium, please. And give us your name and your address, if you will.
Good morning. My name is Yvette Cody. I live at 5257 Brinkman Street. I am the neighbor of Mrs. Friedel.
Okay.
My home is directly behind the property, so I am the one that kind of communicated with her with what was happening. You did address a lot of the questions that she and I have discussed, but I do have some further concerns.
Sure.
I've been in my home 23 years. Prior to that, it was my grandparents' home. So we've been in the community over 50 years. My biggest concern is quality of life. When the community was developed, it was military, retirement, family situation, nice, quiet neighborhood. I know life is changing, times are changing, the city is growing. My neighbor moved here for a quiet retirement time in her life. Our concerns are crime rate increasing. My property, as it is now on the drawing, is a wooded area. I knew the Sanders family that lived in the home that the area is purchased. She used to have cattle and cows. They would get out, come to my fence. We'd feed them apples and different things of that nature, horses, donkeys, whatever. I did hear you mention the buffer in the 20 feet. The way the drawing is made, that property is directly behind, and then I have a side wooded area until there's the next subdivision over. How is that buffer wall in that 20 feet? Is it a still wall? Is it a fenced wall? Because my concern is crimes happening, people jumping the fence, being in my backyard, being in my side wood. Traffic you've addressed, sewage runoff you've addressed. I'm concerned with increasing utilities, utility services, things of that nature. So I just want to know how that will be addressed.
Sure. So what is currently shown is a 20-foot natural buffer of existing natural, I guess, conditions. I can't answer, and I don't believe, and I don't have any data that says that if we build apartments, there's going to be more crime. You know, that doesn't tend to be the case in our communities. In terms of, you know, did you say quality of life or quality of the apartments?
Quality of our lives.
Again, I can't speak to your personal quality of life. Again, we're meeting a need in the city. And again, I don't see how apartments increase crime.
Well, normally with an influx of...
Do me a favor and come up to the microphone, if you will. I know y'all love sharing this microphone.
Thank you. As far as the crime, normally through my experience, the influx of people always causes an influx of a higher crime rate. I've noticed it through the years in my community as the elders are dying off and their houses are being sold or rented and new people are coming in. With the ever-changing circumstances in our community, I have experienced and noticed personally increased crime. So when I mention influx of people, crime rate, those are the things that I'm getting at. Sure. You mentioned the traffic congestion and the things that you've looked at with traffic planning, because we have that fire station there. I don't know if they're implementing red lights or if it'll just be, you know, as it is now, just driving out when you can. Heavy school traffic is in that area. So those are some of my concerns as well.
Sure.
I'm so sorry. This relates to that. You mentioned a natural buffer. Are you going to have any fencing back there? Or is it just a natural buffer, like with trees?
So with this being a zoning hearing and not, you know, looking at the specific site plan and what is actually being built, I mean, we're open to a fence. And we're happy to put a fence in if that would ease concerns. Again, I think the natural buffer provides a much better barrier, but we could do both, or either or. Again, when it comes to crime, I mean, I'd have to see some data behind that other than just a personal feel that more people equals more crime. Again, my feel would be that that doesn't seem to be the case, but I don't have any data to support that. And then as far as any of like the traffic stuff, again, this is a zoning hearing, so we would have to go through all the requirements of the city, go through the traffic engineering office and meet all the requirements that are there in place, which we intend to do.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. Come on up and give us your name and address, if you will.
Hello. Hello, my name is Joshua Broomfield. I live on 3700 Buena Vista Road. I have a number of questions. The first question is just about the economic development of Buena Vista Road. Due to the construction, several businesses have shut down. If you look at the Buena Vista Road strip line in general, all you have is Dollar Generals, fast food, liquor stores, and laundromats. Now, there may be a need to have more housing, but how is the housing going to be supported when there is no economic development on that road line itself? The only jobs that are there, and I own a business, I am a small business owner of Columbus, Georgia. The only jobs that are there are going to reflect a $10 to $13 per hour. And based on the numbers that you have given us, that would not equate to fair living within that modern area. So what economic development is going to be in congruence with this development in order to ensure that the people therefore can live and also be on that road comfortably?
I don't think we can answer that. I think we all in this room would love to have an answer for that, but I think the reality is that this is the zoning board meeting for, or excuse me, the planning commission meeting for the rezoning of this particular property. I agree with you, and that makes a lot of sense. I just don't think that this is the place that has the answer for that.
Okay, I understand that. And then I have two other questions. So what part of this construction is going to use actual Columbus labor? Recently, Columbus has had a bit of outsourcing to other companies outside of the Columbus, Georgia area. And is there any agreement within these contracts to ensure that minority participation is legally required?
If you want to address that.
Yeah, so I'll say from just a pure cost perspective, it benefits us to hire locally. There is less transportation cost. There is less cost to put people in hotels. There's just a number of reasons why it, purely just from a cost perspective, it makes more sense for us to hire locally. We always do our best efforts to hire locally. We pride ourselves in trying to support local economic development through our construction of our projects. Typically in the past, there has been through the Department of Community Affairs, a requirement for an X amount of percentage to be contracted with minority, I call it minority business owners, women business owners for the construction of the developments. That requirement is not a requirement anymore moving forward. That being said, it's something that, again, we prioritize and we will do our best efforts in to hire local contractors, subcontractors on the property.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I haven't done my research on this yet, so it may be something we can research after the meeting. But in growing up in the community, being there a long time resident, I remember discussions with my grandfather and some of the elder neighbors, even the one that owned the property before Miss Friedel moved in, 94-year-old Miss Yulo, who's still alive. There were discussions about a cemetery being on the Sanders property. Do we know if that is accurate?
We definitely don't.
No, I'm not aware of a cemetery.
Okay.
That's something I can research.
Okay. Any other questions or fors or against on this Buena Vista property? Okay. Would a commissioner like to make a motion on this property? Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? We good?
Yeah.
Okay. In regards to case REZN 02260189, a request to rezone 12.80 acres of land located at 5306 Buena Vista Road. Current zoning is single-family residential 2. Proposed zoning is residential multifamily, RMF1, with condition. The proposed use is residential multifamily. I recommend approval.
Thank you, sir. A second? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Okay. Are you all here for something else? Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of parameters before we get started. First, thank you all for being here. I know on a business day, it's tough to be here, so we appreciate your time. Second, it is very important that you know that today is not rezoning of any specific property for a data center. Let me say that again. Today is not rezoning of any specific property for a data center. That is not what we are doing today. The way that county zoning works, when you think about zoning, we just finished the proposal of a zoning from what was single family to potentially RMF2, which stands for residential multifamily. I want you to think about a filing cabinet. Each of those, single family, RMF2, Uptown, for example, many of the businesses that are in Uptown have the zoning UPT. All of those are a file folder in that filing cabinet. And each one of those files has rules and regulations like a buffer, like minimum lot size that are required, like minimum or maximum height size that are required if anyone wants to rezone any property to any of those. It has to meet those minimum standards. So what we are doing today is we are considering a text change to the UDO, which is basically the filing cabinet, that would say that we're creating a new file folder specifically called Technology Overlay District. We're not moving anything into that file folder today, but we are creating the file folder. We're creating the zoning designation, potentially creating the zoning designation, Technology Overlay District, so that down the road, if any property comes up that would like to pursue zoning to that from whatever it currently is, they would have to meet those minimum qualifications, minimum requirements set out by the city. Everybody understand that? So again, we appreciate you being here. If you are here to specifically talk about a data center coming to anywhere in the county, we are not here to talk today about a specific data center coming here anywhere in the county. We're here to talk about the minimum requirements, the specific rules and regulations, and potentially approving that text change to the UDO, creating the file folder within the filing cabinet that the county uses, okay? So let me read this off and then we'll get going. REZN 02260189, a request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO, sections 2.5.25, 10.2.9, and table 3.1.1 to create a technology overlay district. CCG is the applicant. Can we hear the staff report on this, please?
Sure, so it's probably 5 or 6 pages long. I'm just going to hit the high points.
Thank you. Whoop, that's my bad, not his.
Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
So the ordinance or the staff report's 5 or 6 pages long. I'm just going to hit the high points in each sections, and then we can just go from there. The technology overlay districts, the purpose of this section is to provide an overlay to permit and regulate data centers and related technology uses provided herein, in which supports and encourages the siting of new technology, computer systems, data infrastructure, and data hosting. The underlying zoning of a property shall remain unaffected. Uses not permitted as data centers and related technologies. Those uses are the commercial process by which cryptocurrency transactions are verified and added to the public ledger known as the blockchain, and this means through which the new units of cryptocurrencies are released, otherwise known as crypto mining, which is not permitted as a data center. Development standards, data centers shall mean and refer to the entire contiguous tract of land present for development as a data center. The height regulations will be limited to 75 feet in height. Acreage, there'll be a 75 acre minimum. All cooling and ventilation equipment property boundaries must operate on a closed-loop system and must follow watershed standards for uses in disposal with flushing and refills to be regulated by CCG and Columbus Waterworks. And then in Section 2, the uses where this would be permitted as an overlay. So the permitted uses would be RE10, RE5, RE1, RO, CO, general commercial, LMI, HMI, and technology. I believe that's it.
Did you say, I may have missed, the minimum buffer requirement?
Yep. In addition to required setbacks, a minimum 200-foot wide buffer, which can include required setbacks, shall be required along all property lines which abut a residential district in order to provide a visual screen.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay. Mr. Johnson here. You want to, is there anything that we need to share on this?
Just making sure this is backwards from across the street.
Yep.
We've got some folks here that can get into some of the details of water and what's going on with the Development Authority and whatnot. And the first person we need to bring up is Jeremy Cummings with the Waterworks. He's on a tight schedule. He's the president, and he's here to address any water issues.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Jeremy Cummings, 9651 Whitesville Road is my address. I also serve as President and CEO of Columbus Waterworks. And I kind of want to give you a little background about this process. So when Choose Columbus or the Chamber of Commerce is looking at bringing an industry or development into our community, we have no idea what it is. They send us, this particular project was called Project Ruby. So they give us a generic name and say, hey, can you provide water, this amount of water and this amount of sewer to this part of the community for this project. So we go in with our engineers and we evaluate the water usage and the water demand that would be needed for the piece of property and the business that's coming, as well as the sewer usage, the wastewater treatment needs and demand, and verify, hey, we can serve this, or no, we cannot serve this. So when we saw Project Ruby come across our desk, as we reviewed it, we looked at the water usage, said it's not a substantial water user. I had no idea it was a data center. Our people had no idea it was a data center. So when we looked at it, we said, look, there's no issue with serving water to this part of the community at that demand. And we were really a proponent of it because as a water utility, we want to support economic development in the Columbus community. We also are charged with protecting the Chattahoochee River. We are the stewards of the Chattahoochee River in our community, so we also want to make sure that we're being good stewards to our water resource. What we did see when we looked at this particular piece of property was sanitary sewer was not available at that site. So we told the Choose Columbus representatives and developer, I think they communicated it back to the developer, that we do not have sanitary sewage at this site currently. We have plans in our 2049 master plan to run sewer to this location, but right now that's a $30 million request that we're not in the position to fund right now. As the project developed, we started having some meetings with the developer or contractor. They asked us, hey, if we ran the sewer at our cost and paid for it at our cost, would that solve the problem? We said, yes, that would save us $30 million in 24, probably more than that by the year 2049. But it would also help with economic development in that community. It would help provide the essential services for that part of our community to grow. So as we look at the water usage, whether it's a data center, whether it's an apartment complex, it does not have a negative impact on our water source. I think it's important to realize Columbus was a mill town for many years, and we put the infrastructure in place at that time. We have a 90 million gallon a day withdrawal permit from the Georgia EPD. We're averaging right now 32 million gallons a day. So we're barely using a third of the water that we're permitted to discharge in our community. We're also proud to say that we put over 90% of that water that we use in Columbus, Georgia, back into the Chattahoochee River, so we don't impact the environment negatively for our downstream neighbors, Lake Eufaula and other users downstream. They are very dependent on our water resource. You know, Lake Eufaula, their economy is around bass fishing, and that Lake Eufaula is a big part of that. So we want to make sure we're doing the environmental side of our job as well. So as we evaluated this process, running sewer to that community out there, we will not, I want to clarify because I've had people calling and asking, we will not require anyone, any current residents out there, to tie to the existing sewer at this time. Or in the future, we don't require you to tie to the sewer. Now, when septic tanks begin to fail, and they will, I see it every day, residents select to tie to the sanitary sewer because it is a lot more cost feasible and it's better for the environment. When we look at consumptive use, areas of our community that are on a septic tank, that water that they're using is going into the ground. It's not going back to the Chattahoochee River. So it's not as environmentally friendly as a public sewer system. So from a waterworks perspective, we have the water to service this community or this development. No matter if it's a data center, apartment complex, whatever goes there, we have the capacity to serve that community. And with the sewer being installed, we can treat the sanitary sewer. The sewers, if it were to be a data center, if it were to be a manufacturing company, whatever it may be, we would require pre-treatment from their side. So we have standards that we require any industry in town to meet. And whether it's a data center, whether it was a Pratt Whitney expansion or TSIS or whatever, we would require them to meet a certain standard before they discharge to us. So from an environmental standpoint, from the water and sewer, I personally don't, or professionally, don't see the dangers or the hazards in this site, whether as far as running water and sewer and the development and the zoning in this part of the community. So,
Thank you, sir.
Subject to any questions?
Questions? We are going to get to that. I want to let the commissioners ask questions first. Any questions from the commissioners? Yes, sir.
So you basically, this project would not affect the water for the residents at all, is basically what you're saying.
No, sir. What it would do is save money from the residents, because the residents end up paying for sewer. If we were to have to do it, we put it in our rates. So it would be a cost savings down the road for residents. And it would help balance costs, to be honest with you. I mean, it's kind of a simple business. The more people you have paying, the more balanced your costs will be.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes. And I apologize, I have to leave at 10:30, but I've got 45 minutes, so if anyone has questions.
All right, we're going to get to that, but I want to if there are other people that need to speak, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, we'll let Missy Kendrick come up with Choose Columbus and address the ordinance, the proposed ordinance.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Missy Kendrick, and I'm the president of Choose Columbus and the Development Authority of Columbus, Georgia. And you're right, today is not about the specific project, but I'll be glad to answer any questions about it. But I do want to address the potential language that is in the overlay district that you're considering. In working in other communities, I've seen it done several ways, and I love the idea of the overlay district because we do still get the opportunity as leaders and as a community to take each project on an individual basis and evaluate it as it comes up to decide whether or not to apply the overlay district. It puts in place greater restrictions than what we currently have, even in a heavy industrial zoning category. It increases the setback and the buffer area. And one thing that was not mentioned, but it also includes a noise limitation. It does address noise as well. So it addresses the height of the building and the acreage. It does say that it requires a closed loop system. I actually think that in the future there might be something even more economical that comes out, newer technology that comes out. So we might at some point even want to come back and remove the closed loop system and ask for something that is even more has greater conservation values. But like I say, this is a great system for us to put in place. I appreciate you considering it, and eventually, ultimately, we do plan on applying for the usage of the overlay district for a specific project. But for now, this is a great tool for us to be able to monitor and evaluate every data center project that comes along. And so thank you very much for your positive consideration.
Commissioners, questions? Okay, Mr. Johnson, was there anybody else? No. Okay. All right, so we are going to do this as orderly as we possibly can. Before you stand up and run to the podium, I'm going to give you some rules. Everyone on this commission is a volunteer. No one on this commission is paid. No one on this commission is paid. If you raise your voice, you will be escorted out. We are also your neighbors. We're in this together. Today is about finding information out, but it is also always about treating people fairly. I expect that of you, and if you can't uphold that, you will be escorted out. So if you have questions or if you would like to speak for or against, you may come to the microphone as orderly as you can. My only request is as you make your questions, if you will make them brief. There are a couple hundred of us here today, and we appreciate you being here. Please don't grandstand. We appreciate that. Yes, sir. And give us your name and address, each one of you, if you will.
Hello. My name is Tim Ryan. I live at 3715 Willow Bend Run. I guess my first question isn't in my prepared statement. It was just in response to what was presented from the Water Department. My question for them is what happens during droughts? We know that in some states that have had data centers, they've had competition between residents' water needs and data centers' water needs. And so in a drought period, how do we know that businesses, data centers built in these zones don't soak up all the water needs of a resident? So that was one question. Maybe you can come back and address that. The other ones, I just wanted to discuss a couple of things that brought me here today. I don't normally public speak, if you can't tell, but I have deep concerns about the future of Columbus and the use of data centers. So I think for me, the number one issue is affordability. It's a grave concern to many of us. Yes, we need jobs, but the jobs created by the construction of a data center are temporary and often filled by out-of-state contractors who do little for the local economy other than put pressure on the already strained rental market. Residents of Columbus will not be getting permanent jobs, just their rents raised. We are already paying high utility bills because of cost overruns of Georgia Power's nuclear reactors. We paid for those reactors for clean, sustainable energy made here in Georgia for Georgians, not to attract out-of-state tech bros to build their data center and drive up the price of our electricity. Lastly, I want to discuss some disturbing reports of noise pollution, and in particular, the health effects of subaudible infrasound noise pollution, which is making people dizzy and sick in Texas and other locations where data centers are operating. If you have not done a health impact study of noise generated by data centers, I would recommend you look into it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let's let, Mr. President, if you want to come back up, let's let you answer at least the water question on that, if you will.
Excuse me, sir.
Great question about the drought. So we have to submit a drought management plan to the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. And I also serve as the ACFS chair for the Middle Chattahoochee Basin. So that's the Apalachicola, Chattahoochee, and Flint stakeholders. It's when the, Tri-State Water Wars began, this group was put together so that during a drought, we wouldn't go to court and fight and really understand everybody's needs along the entire Chattahoochee, Apalachicola, and Flint water basin. And so I understand the drought side of it. We do a drought management exercise once a year, and just like industry thinks, hey, we're the most important water users in a drought period, farmers think they're the most important water users during a drought period. Residents think they're the most important water users. Everyone thinks they are. So what we do is educate ourselves and understand on the importance of all the users of the water. And what the state has seen is during drought periods, what they'll do is they'll ask us to submit our plan for drought management. But we do that before the drought. So all we have to do is implement it when it begins. So that's when you'll start seeing odd and even water days and things like that. Industries and things like that, we'll ask them to conserve just like we do the residents. And so that plan, it won't change because there's a data center here. We have that plan in place. They don't, like I said, if this becomes a data center that goes to this site, it wouldn't even be one of our top 10 users in Columbus. It's just not, the water use is just not there. So as I don't see it a concern when drought comes.
Is it safe to say or reasonable to say, and this may be a question for you, Ms. Kendrick, that part of the reason that we're seeing this interest in our region is because of the accessibility to these rivers that are just very consistent? Yes, that's why Columbus was developed as a mill town, because we were at the right spot in the Chattahoochee River, that we had a supply of water that other areas in the state did not have. So yes, I believe it's power, water, and gas, the availability that we have in this community does attract companies like this. Okay. All right. Any follow-up questions before we move on? Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. And give us, y'all, reminder, give us your name and address.
Name is Paul Olson. I live at 13830 Upatoy Lane. I've been living there for 34 years, half my life. I'm 75, almost half my life. And anyway, I have an acreage there, and I'll be within 2 miles of there. And my concerns is, you talk about sewage. I've been living there for 34 years, and I have a septic tank, yet I pay property taxes on sewage. And I've been in front of city council time and time again, and they just look at me like a deer in headlights. And that's a travesty within itself. When it comes to decibels, the water usage, I would like to ask you, what is the usage? I think it's 50,000 gallons a day? 87. And then it's gonna go up to 219,000?
To about 230,000.
Okay. Now, my concern is, back in 2007, 8, I went in front of city council because Mayor Skip Henderson was the city councilor at the time, and they were experiencing a drought up in Lake Lanier. You remember that, many years ago? And he was trying to enforce a ordinance, and I went in front of city council twice, and I said, we're not even experienced one. And they were wanting to have people water their lawns every other day, and if not, basically you turn on your neighbor like a Nazi. And I'm thinking, we're not even experiencing a drought, and here's a city councilor, and they were ready to pass it, and if I'd not went in front of city council and stopped it, they would have imposed it, and that's what we're looking at. What I'm afraid of is when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry coming in here, and it's a contractual agreement, and we experience a severe drought. I mean, we could have a catastrophic severe drought. We may have a real problem here in that respect there. So, and then also, when it comes to noise, they talk about the decibels. And the decibels on a data center on the exterior noises are 55 to 85, and a continuous 24/7 going, like this, right? And then they have backup generators exceed 90 decibels, and it goes within 2 miles. Well, I lived within that 2 miles. And my wife last night, she goes, well, Paul, why are you going in front of you guys? And I said, well, because you're gonna hear this like this, right? And I said, we might be able to withstand it. But I said, lo and behold, your dogs, your cats, any livestock in around there, they're very sensitive to noise. And tell me that ain't gonna be driving them crazy. So, and also, I have a real estate license, and when it comes to, let's say, trying to resell my property, I'm gonna have to put a disclosure because of the pure fact that, you know, it's gonna be a disturbance. So it's gonna actually affect property values within that confines. And then lastly, I'll talk about this. Electricity, I've read time and time again that because of spikes and surges, that basically everybody's electricity bill will go up 10%. And the closer you are, it may be even up to 28%. And since I'm 75, my wife is 78, you know, we're on basically a fixed income. And it's already tough enough. I mean, I pay a $400 bill as it is because I have a big house. That's my fault, right? But anyway, I don't want to keep on sitting there paying, you know, Flint Energies, and people don't want to pay the Georgia Power any more than they have to. And then lastly, if you notice, they had a planning for a subdivision in McKee Road there in Harris County, and they denied it. And I promise you, it has everything to do with this data center and how it's going to be disruptive to the ecological area and how it's going to affect everybody in that area. God bless everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
If you could address that, the decibels. Jesse, could you address the decibels, how it's going to affect, you know, animals? I'm sorry, I can't read. The decibels. Did you not listen to what I had to say? I did. You know, as far as the decibels that the data noise that gives off, it goes back, it goes beyond, you know, like in Muskogee County, let me read this. In Muskogee County, noise levels exceeding 65 decibels during daytime hours is prohibited. Nighttime noise is 55 decibels. It exceeds that. So if it exceeds basically our law here, there's no way in God's green earth you could pass this thing because it's disruptive. And then when the generators go on, it goes up to 90 decibels. And tell me that ain't gonna drive everybody crazy, okay? So, I've been there for 34 years, and it's a nice property. It's $650,000. It's not some cheap place. If you go by there, you know, it's something that's prideful. And my place looks like a golf course in front. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just telling you, I may have to move. You know what I'm saying? It's forcing me to move.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Give us your name and address.
Hi, good morning. My name's Mickey Bruner. I live at 8032 Deerwood Court in Upatoy. I believe we're about a mile, maybe a mile and a half away from the proposed site. But my question was going back to the technology overlay district that you were talking about amending to. Is this something that's has been done for other projects? Is this something that's routine, or is this something that we're just doing specifically for this new project or this new proposal? I'm just curious, how often have we made amendments to a technology district overlay, please?
I think we're creating this, Mr. Renfro. I mean, for example, I mentioned UPT as Uptown. that was a zoning district that was created specifically for Uptown with minimum requirements because we were having development happen in Uptown. And so you can speak to that, but I got to let you speak. There you go.
Yeah, we have a couple of different ways to manage zoning and just land in general. We have overlays, and then you have the ability to rezone in general. Typically, in the past for Columbus, the overlays have all been basically road restrictions that run along roads like Veterans Parkway, 2nd Avenue, Victory Drive, things like that, that impose more stringent restrictions on what can and cannot happen there. So we have had overlays like this in the past. This type is new, but it's not something that's out of the ordinary.
Okay, so it would be safe to assume that maybe we're using this technology district overlay, is that this is a method that perhaps other counties or other data centers have used in the past? Is that where we picked that up from, or how did we come up with this idea? I mean, I'm all for, I like the idea that we can customize, like the lady said, customize the restrictions within that overlay. But I'm just curious if this is something, like getting back to my original question, this is something that we're just doing for this project for the first time. And if it's been done for other projects, and how much success have they had with that? Are there any lessons that we can learn from using that technique with other, municipalities or counties or what have you?
Mr. Johnson.
We have done this before. A special activity center overlay was created for TSIS back in the 90s. Brookstone Center has its own designation, commercial office. Those are two examples of two standalone ordinances for those two specific developments. So yes, it has happened before.
But it'd be safe to say that this is a much bigger scale, though, for this overlay. This overlay is going to be massively bigger.
What this is a campus designed data center area.
Okay.
We have data centers. Bell South at the corner of Veterans and 13th is one big data center, and Synovus up off Knology Way is a data center. But this is a campus data center, much like what they are developing in Fayetteville and other locations. That is what this is proposed for.
Okay. That's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Leslie Landy.
Pull the microphone down, if you will.
I live at 7747 Layfield Road. I am here to speak against the data center, specifically proposal. Mr. Cummings, since you're on a time crunch, I have specific questions for you, if I may. Does this not, you made the comment that this project or this overlay does not affect the incoming water. I would ask you to refer to, sorry, I've lost my note. There's a lady who's a doctor, she's an ecologist, and she goes around the whole country speaking about specifically the output of water with these data centers. She has said that a lot of water companies are unable to filter the sludge, some of the compounds in the sludge that will be dispersed into our water systems, even though it's a closed loop. Can you speak to that? Have you guys been able to talk to other cities, other counties that have a data center? Are you capable of filtering out those poisons?
So we don't filter them out. The data center or whatever the industry has to pre-treat it and filter it out before we accept it. So every industry in Columbus, Georgia, all the way back to the mills that discharge into our sewer system, they have to be permitted by Columbus Water Works. They have to submit samples and sample results and have to be licensed to pull those and interpret those. So before we accept it on our side, they have to meet those requirements. So they would have to do that. They would have to put the elements and minerals and all that stuff back into the water that may be stripped before it comes back to us. So we wouldn't be doing that. They would, but we would be holding them accountable, just like we do every other industry in Columbus.
Okay. With that having been said, what do we do if this does leach into our system? Kendall Creek is there. It's on the back of my property, and I'm right down the street from this piece. There are all kinds of aquifers and rivers in Columbus, as well as underground springs, which we're very concerned about the water being contaminated. By the time we realize that the water is contaminated, it's too little too late. So we wanted to make sure that these filtration systems are able to filter out everything that might go into that system.
Yeah, the state does that.
Okay.
I mean, the state is the one that has the requirements on buffers and setbacks on water sources and things like that.
Okay.
So we just regulate the ones that are here and report to the state. They have the enforcement.
They enforce it. Okay, thank you. The other portion of my speech is a little bit less technical and more emotional. We purchased our property on Layfield Road, 70 acres, 11 years ago, with the thought of making a family compound. We have 2 daughters that moved out there 10 years ago, and my husband and I moved out there 6 years ago when we retired. So we're all there now together, one big happy family. This affects all of Columbus, and I don't think that the people, the peanut gallery, I'm one of the peanuts, have had the opportunity to do our own research and to make educated decisions and ask educated questions. We haven't even had a way to do that. So this overlay, although this project that's on the table now may affect us if it does go through, or it will, I'm talking about the overlay in general. It is specifically for data centers, correct? Yes. So all these questions that everyone has and the misinformation that we keep being told is out there is only misinformation because no one in the know has told us the real information. So I personally take offense to the quote, misinformation. I have repeatedly called city officials and asked to have them return my calls. Will, you're one of them. We've only had 10 days to digest this whole idea of the overlay. 10 days. Absolutely nothing passes any government agency in 10 days. We deserve the respect of time to absorb it, to ask questions, and to gather our own information. I think that this would be a great mistake, and I will be very emotional with this comment, and probably dramatic. I feel, and some of these people sitting here, I will speak for them, feel that this could be the Aaron Brockovich of 2026. We don't have the information. The last thing I'll say, or 2 things actually, this property in particular with Project Ruby, I agree we're not talking about that, but why in neighborhoods? Why did we, my husband and I, invest the largest amount of money that we ever could, and now we're on a limited income, to chase a dream in Muskogee County that we feel like is being raped from us? That's the way it feels. We don't have anywhere to go to this underutilized land. We thought we found it. This is our second move because of rezoning. And we thought the last place, which we were there 20 years on Midland Road, was the last move. But right across from our neighborhood, a subdivision went in. Absolutely not. In my opinion, it was spot zoning. It wasn't by definition, but it was. This is most definitely not in the long-range plan of Columbus, these data centers. And I will ask you to look at this too, when it comes time to do Project Ruby. There are 400 acres already zoned industrial behind Pratt Whitney. Why in our neighborhoods? Why this underutilized, which by the way, is utilized exactly the way we purchased it to be used? Why? Why there? This is gonna happen all over. We've been told by a council member that their dream is to have 3 to 4 data centers in Columbus. Are they all going to be in residential areas? Why do we have industrial parks? I also have one question, and I'm finished with that part.
Sure.
I have another question. We have been told that if a sewer is available to us, we, by Georgia state statute, have 90 days to hook up to it. That's not true. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
And I'll touch on that.
Okay.
That is not true. There's parts of our community right now. Cherokee Hills is a great example of that. We ran sewer in Cherokee Hills years ago. And as oftentimes we do, what we'll do is for an easement, we'll give them a free connection to the sanitary sewer. But a lot of times they choose not to do that. But like I said, we did that probably 20 years ago. We have people call us all the time now, hey, can we tie to that sewer? Because we'd rather do that versus $25,000 for a non-conventional septic system, so.
Okay.
Then my other question would be, could one of the concessions, if this does go through on the floating district, could that be one of the concessions that the developer is responsible for hooking us up? They're financially. We're probably looking at close to $40,000 to hook up just to the sewer that would be on my road. Because our neighborhood, our property is 70 acres. We're in the middle of it. We built our driveway 1 mile long to get back to the middle, to live the lifestyle that we've chosen. So that's one of the choices that I would ask that you at least consider if this goes through. We feel like now we're just pretty much in damage control, that it's already a done deal. But also give us the consideration of some time to absorb this, digest it, do our research, and ask some educated questions.
Thank you. All right. Hello. Hang on just a second. I can understand this. We have become very site-specific to this particular property in Upatoy. I just want to remind us that today is about the idea of the overlay and the ordinance, the specific details of that. Also, the way that this process works, as you saw it play out in the case before this, is that any ultimate rezoning of a property would have to come to a commission meeting where it would be very specific to that property, and you all would also have an opportunity then to speak very specifically about your concerns with that specific property. So with that, go ahead, sir. Yes, tell us your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Joshua Ferguson. I live at 6839 Whitesville Road. And specifically about the zoning overlay, so I'm a consultant. I work with a lot of clients, mostly out of state, bringing income into the area, that are medium-sized businesses that love data centers like this. They need places to put servers that are relatively local to where their employees are. And Atlanta is nice. It's nice having connections up to Atlanta, right? But having something in Columbus would be useful. There's a reason TSYS and Aflac and Synovus and all those folks have data centers down here already, right? You want to have them on site. But most medium-sized businesses can't afford to build a data center for a lot of reasons. They don't want to. They're not experts in electricity or AC and that kind of stuff. So having these sort of like co-located data centers within, relative driving distance of your business is really important, right? If you've ever made the drive up to like North Atlanta, it adds an extra hour and a half to get to North Atlanta, right? So if you need to put hands on a server that's up there, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But something here in Columbus would be just really useful for businesses that are already here and businesses that would consider coming down here or putting an office, and if it's already an existing medium-sized big business, putting an office down here. So, and just generally, I hate to make a comment like this, but the less rules around zoning, the better, in my opinion. It's people's property. They should be able to do what they want with it. Yeah, that's pretty much my comments, so thanks.
All right, thank you, sir.
And thanks to Choose Columbus for bringing this kind of business to us. I really appreciate it.
Okay, yes, sir.
My name is Jeff Brandling. I live at 6328 Brookstone Boulevard. I was born and raised here in Columbus. We brought up some water issues before, the drought. Also, we're downstream from about, 6 or 7 of these that are being proposed around the state. So how are we going to guarantee that water is going to be there? Because we want this thing going in a couple of years. We've got years to expand it. This thing's going to get 4 to 5 times bigger than it is. So I'd love to know how we're going to keep that water, the closed loop that's going to be maintained by Columbus Waterworks, who are also the people that need to approve it, kind of going hand in hand there. Everyone that's building these wants them bigger and bigger. So how's Columbus down here? We're talking about Lake Eufaula that we affect. We're affected by a bunch of other places too. Sure, we can do it. At the same time, all these other people are doing it. Multiply everything by 7. How are we supposed to do that?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. We're seeing data centers pop up all over the state of Georgia. And I'll tell you, I was at the Capitol a couple weeks ago and heard a state representative make the comment, Georgia wants the data centers to come to our state. When we think about data centers and the cloud, I think a lot of people, this leader made this comment. He said, a lot of people think we're all using phones, we're all using computers, we're all trying to save our data. And in our mind, the cloud is up here in the air. The cloud's not up in the air. The cloud is a data center. It's where our data is stored. And from a national security standpoint, the state is looking at it. We would rather our data be stored in the United States and in the state of Georgia. We're the #1 state to do business in. What better place to protect our data and know that it is safe is in the state of Georgia. So you're right, Georgia is dating, if you will, or courting these data centers, and we are seeing more of them come to our state. But I'll tell you, from an environmental standpoint, from a water industry standpoint, other cities, just like we do, have pre-treatment requirements and permits and other rules in their city ordinances and things like that in their city that prohibits pollutants and all being discharged into the water system, into the public water system. So I would assume, I can't speak for, I will say, I'm going in the next week or two to Newton County to tour some data centers and learn about their pros and cons and things like that. I've read a lot of papers on it from the water industry about how these data centers impact the overall water system. I go back to what I originally said. We're in a unique position in that we were a mill town and we've got capacity and infrastructure in place that a lot of other Georgia cities don't. And I think that's what separates Columbus from the other communities. But what our neighbors are doing upstream, we sample the water before it comes into our water intake, and we make sure that everything's clean. And we're in a pretty good run of the river, if you will, that we have good, safe, dependable drinking water.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Safe, dependable drinking water is great. How are we going to guarantee if 7 of these are opening up that are all going to get bigger, the amount that we need is going to be here, though? The amount's what I'm wondering about. The amount of water.
The amount of water, okay. So I'll break it down with some math a little bit. I researched a few weeks ago. In 2007, we sold 37 million gallons a day of water in 2007. And this year, right now, we're averaging 32 million gallons a day in sales. So we're selling 5 million gallons less a day today than we were in 2007. So when I look at a usage of 200, 300,000 gallons a day, it's not even 1 million gallons a day. So I don't think we're anywhere close to worrying about not having sufficient water to serve our community. I think The state would not permit us to sell 90 million gallons a day if it was going to dry up the Chattahoochee River. So I just don't see the math doesn't add up to say that we're going to not have enough water to serve this, whatever is built on the property. I go back, I'm not for or against the data center. That's not my role as the president of the Waterworks. My role is to protect the river and economic development in our community. So when I just look at it, take the data center away, if somebody's using 87 to 200, 300,000 gallons a day, it is not going to impact our infrastructure or our river from negatively. And that's just the way I look at it. I have to put the blinders on and say it doesn't matter what it is and do the math, and the math just doesn't show me that it's a concern.
Thank you, sir. All right, still a little foggy on what the stuff upstream is going to be used and how that affects us, but we can move past that. And sure, maybe we're not here to discuss the data center. If anyone else is here representing another industry, then let's hear from that. I've only heard one. The very first person we heard speak is representing a data center, so I feel like we're going ahead with that. You mentioned manufacturing. If we've got other folks here to discuss manufacturing ideas, I'd love to hear that. Columbus was a mill town. You know, that went away. We tried to get back up. Columbus became kind of a financial hub. That's left this city in a big way here recently. So we're going to bring in something, you know, great. We're going to get $5 billion here and there. Most of that guaranteed to leave Columbus. So how that's coming back here and letting us rebuild, because Columbus needs to build up. A lot of this stuff we've gotten around here is from private money and businesses that are here that are currently in the process of vacating. So we're going to have a couple hundred people here. Sure, maybe some of them are from here. A lot of them aren't going to be. All that money is eventually leaving here, pretty much guaranteed. I'd love to see some data that shows me something different, but that's what I happen to believe, and I can say that's an opinion. If all of this is so valuable, why are we essentially giving away our natural resources, something we can use? Are we shopping this around to other people? If it's a data center, do we have other people here, or is it choose Columbus or bust? Are there other industries that we are talking to? Are we doing everything we need to use that land, the actual land, water, trees, natural resources? Are we using that to the best of our capability? It's just something I would like to know, because all I see is the money that comes in for it absolutely leaving, and I don't know how we power it. If this is supposed to be ×4 in a few years, ×7 around the state, doesn't seem to add up to me. I'm a small business here. I love Columbus. I want it to do great things. Outsourcing doesn't seem to be the way to go for me, and I'm only saying that if it's the data center, and if there's other options here, I'd love to hear those as well. Thank you all very much for having us here today, and if you have anything, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, I'm glad we're all working together so far. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Give us your name and address, if you will.
Hello, my name is Matt Gilbert. I live on Mobley Road. Hello, members of the board. I am quite concerned with the idea that we're going to create this technology overlay for the specific purposes that will be in the future. I think that it's pretty clear that our city doesn't really have interest in the data center, and the only people who seem to be speaking in support are doing so disingenuously. I'm glad you brought up water testing and how the waterways of Columbus have resulted from the 40 years of development. Maricopa Creek is ruined. There are heavy metals and other toxins that are irremovable from the creek due to industrial development that was never stifled. Once this data center is created, there will likely be no oversight. Just like the person who was shilling for it said, as soon as they get that property, that's theirs, and they're going to do with it what they want. Maricopa Creek, absolutely ruined. Lindsay Creek, absolutely ruined. Almost every tributary in Columbus has been ruined from irresponsible development. And speaking that they are not, you can go just walk down Lake Bottom Park. The water is brown, nasty, and makes people sick. We are one of the largest cities for ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, and other gut issues as a result of the water that we drink. It is not as safe as some may spout and promote. The water in the Chattahoochee has been researched for over 2 decades from Columbus State University. I had the honor to participate in that research. We pull fish out that have 5-inch cancerous growths of nodules coming off the side of their head every single time. Most of the fish that we pull out have lesions all over their body because they are sick, living in nasty, polluted water. That's in Lindsay Creek. That's in the Chattahoochee River. That's in Warracoba Creek. Those 3 are the only sites that I was personally involved in sampling, but every single creek
Hey,
in
sir,
Columbus
I'm
is
gonna ask you to
ruined.
take it down a little bit. We're not your enemy. Just take it down. Thank you. We want to hear you. Take it down.
My generation is going to be the ones that have to pay for this irresponsible development, and I urge that you do not allow an overlay to be created for an industry that has a history of the problems that our city already suffers from and are not being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Pull that microphone down if you will.
My name is Jessica Warshall. I want to thank you for your volunteering time. I didn't know that. I thought you got something for your time. And
We
Mr.
get you guys. We get this great time.
And
Two
I
times
want
a
to
month.
thank my community for being here. And Mr. Baker, it was nice to meet you briefly this morning coming in. I wonder though, Mr. Baker, if you had a Freudian slip. Did you already choose your vote today before you even heard from anybody today?
No, I don't think so.
Can I have everybody answer, please?
I mean, the way that this process works is we receive the information to look over and review prior to the meeting. But I think the whole purpose of the commission is to hear what everyone has to say and to consider what everyone has to say for the purpose of making a decision. And sometimes those decisions, as you saw from the previous rezoning, sometimes the decisions are easy and it's very cut and dry. Often they are not, and often the commission is split, so.
Okay. Also, I don't see your name tag, it's reversed, but the paperwork that you read from, is that available to us? Can you give me a copy before I leave today, and anyone else that would like it?
We don't have a copy available today, but it is all online and available for public, anyone to read.
Can you give the online,
How do they get
where
there?
where can we find that?
Sure, if you go to our link, columbusga.gov/planning, and then you can go to the rezoning header. It will send you down the page a little bit. There is a Trello link that opens to all of our active and open and ongoing rezoning cases, and this will right now will be under the Planning Advisory Commission column of that. And once it gets past this to the next section, then it will be still on the board through the whole process.
Okay, thank you. And
Everything that we receive is there. So there's nothing that's separated for our eyes only or somehow for the city council's eyes only. It's all there.
Okay, so what you previously spoke to before I spoke to you, I still don't know your name because your plaque is backwards, is what he has and gave us, I don't remember what you called them, but that information is what you're speaking of, or you have other information as
No,
well that is on that site that he
That's-
provided us?
Yeah, what he read out is what's there that's available for a normal zone, like the zoning application that happened before this. You can read the actual application, you can see the overview and all of that's there.
Okay, thank you. And
You're welcome.
the man from the water, did he leave?
I think he just left, yes, ma'am.
So what he was
All of
alluding
this is
to.
recorded, by the way, so if there are things that you have concerns for, we can try to hunt that down.
Okay, well, yeah, in listening, it seemed like he was aware of what you were aware, but I'm new into the conversation, so I just want to make sure that I have the exact opportunity to review every piece that has come through your desk and your email and your mailbox, not only from the water, but also from, who's this, CCG?
That's Columbus Consolidated Government.
Okay, and also whoever the billionaire is, whoever the shell companies potentially are, all of it. I would like to see it all. And I hope that my passion is not shown as disrespect.
Ms. Kendrick, will you come up? I know you have had some public meetings and I think plan to have some more, but if you want to share, for folks that have interest and have questions, how you're getting information out.
Sure. So Choose Columbus and the Development Authority of Columbus, we are the economic development organization for the community. So it's our job to recruit business and industry and bring in capital investment and quality jobs to our community. We were approached by a group called Habitat Partners, and we did not choose the site. So when someone comes in and says, you know, put it in the industrial park, we did not choose the site. The site was located and acquired. We were not a part of that. We did not participate in that. So the site they chose was chosen originally for something else. And when they ran numbers on it, it didn't come back being profitable, so they started looking at other things that they could do on the site and ended up talking to us about a data center, which I do 100% support. But as far as who's involved in that, you will get to meet them when it comes time to, if the overlay district does go through, then they will be applying to use and apply the overlay district to this site. So you will absolutely get to meet them, talk to them, have, you know, question them about anything you might want to, you know, within the scope of the rezoning process.
Okay, thank you.
So, does that help?
Yeah, question.
Ms. Kendrick, I've got one question real quick. A gentleman mentioned earlier about the noise levels and what the noise levels could be at certain times and such versus what's proposed in the UDO. Can you speak to that?
Yes, what they had given me was I got a copy of the overlay district language, and I think that it was 85 or 65, I can't remember, 65?
65 during the day, 55 at night, I think.
Yes, and in my discussions with the developers is that they would stay within that range. So.
I think one of the questions, city guys, one of the questions is what if they don't? Mr. Johnson or Mr. Renfro, how does the county enforce those kind of things?
The noise ordinance is, I believe, CPD.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a fine thing in place, something that they're fined so much per day if they don't stay within the boundaries of that. And I apologize to the gentleman that was here. I didn't hear his question. So I did hear what he said and made a note about the inaudible levels, and I do want to look into that, but I apologize, I didn't hear the question. So
Okay.
I don't know where he went, but anyway.
Right,
But can I address one other thing?
Sure.
There was a statement made about jobs. There is a commitment of 195 jobs for this data center. There's about 1,500 construction jobs. Those are not included in the commitment of the 195 jobs that they're planning to bring to the community. So the construction jobs would be above and beyond any commitment of job creation.
Okay, thank you.
I'm really glad you brought that up because on the way here, I wanted to ask if we could get in writing what these jobs are that are promised, the cost of, their salary, what they will do, and what their promise is for the tenure. Because funny thing, I lived in Harlingen, and I was less than an hour away from Boca Chica Beach before Musk came to town. And when these things happen, they promise things, and then the reality is very much different. So I'd be happy to speak to anybody, anytime. And I see you as my peers. You are my peers. I'm not asking any permission from you because you put your pants on one leg at a time, just like me. And I'm coming at you as a mom, as a nurse, as a holistic medicine geek who is making medicine from my yard and freely giving my book material, my knowledge and experience, and my tinctures and teas to anyone who needs them. So I'm gonna hope to rally people in an economy that does not, there's the tale of two worlds, the tale of two cities, the haves and the have-nots. you do have your people with ones and zeros and fiat dollar bills trying to use that to buy influence, but you also have people who could care less and have a bartering, trading, and a free-giving economy right here. And I'm asking you as parents, community, sons, daughters, you have children, you have spouses, do me a favor and look 10 years down the line. If you have not researched this, please do so. And if you don't want to and you have your mindset and you can't be proven wrong, please sidestep and allow somebody else to take your seat first. Secondly, can you look yourself in the mirror, your children, your wife, when you're sitting at their deathbed because they have a new cancer diagnosis, because this place poisons the air, the water, and the land? Do you have to move because you can't look yourself in the eye, because you can't look your child in the eye, because you were wrong and you didn't do the full job of what you said you would do? I mean, this is, to the lady, if she's still here, love you, my sister. I mean, you know, when we were living in St. Simon and we were at an event and the guy's talking about how Georgia has had the same protections for the environment for 50 years, and he spoke with such passion and like pride. And I'm like, yes, we're moving to you know, Columbus. I'm so excited because we were in Tampa at the time, and I saw what the development was doing down there. Is it worth it to have all that go for empty promises? So I've done some research because you know, neighbors are sharing information, and it doesn't take long to find out that, you know, in one occurrence, people's water bills raised 3 times the first year. The sludge lie. I mean, can we please be honest with ourselves and realize, are we taking the word? He said it was on it was on whoever the owner was to clean the water before it got to them. Okay, how many of these billionaires are on Epstein's list? I mean, come on, seriously? This is ridiculous. I mean, we're humans, right? We all have our problems, and we either are facing them and growing, or we're like medicating with food or alcohol or whatever, TV. I mean, can we just honestly have an honest conversation? I'm with you. It's a watershed moment. People are here for a reason. And people come and go. It's a transient town, you know? When I tell people my story, I'm like, are you military? Well, no, but it feels like it, you know? And I was so proud to tell my kids today that, you know, Daddy thinks I'm silly for not thinking I need to vote in the national election because it's rigged and they're established by the banking family since 1800s. But the local is what matters. You need to get, I'm sorry, I need to stop?
Yeah, no, you don't have to stop. We just got to stay.
Oh, okay.
We've been on Epstein. And
I'm sorry.
let's
Local
just
is
keep it
what
focused.
matters, I was
Yeah,
telling my
that's
kids.
right.
I saw a 16-year-old last night change the mood in the room at a Harris County rezoning, and it changed the faces, the people up there. And she was brave. She was beautiful. She was clear. She was worried about her little brother. And I just hope that you listen to that regardless of like the money that talks. And the reason I want that is because the devil is in the details. I mean, it is. I don't know you. I'm not calling you a liar, but your highlights could be different than my highlights. So I want to research. And I do. I feel like this time is the same as like when COVID was coming around. And I tried to wake people up then, but I learned a lot of lessons from that pain. And this is where it's at. You know, one person can make a difference. Apathy is the death of freedom. To see the cage is to leave the cage. And every one of us, some of you are older than me, we can get back on that hero's journey and we can make a difference, not only for our family, but our community. And we don't have to roll over because fiat dollar bills are talking. We can say, no, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, y'all, I'm going to remind you again that we are focused today on the overlay district, the idea of an overlay district for technology, and to stay specifically on that and to keep it brief, if you will. Thank you.
course. My name is Casey Burdette. I live at 2977 Victory Circle, an area lovingly referred to as Nankipu. I really just have some questions. I'm not necessarily sure that all these can be answered. Some of them may be more rhetorical and things that should be taken away and maybe discussed in a different environment. My first question is, what specific technologies and uses are allowed under this overlay in why CCG has requested it? So if this overlay gives more restrictions and is supposed to protect us, why does this development need it?
Mr. Renfro, Mr. Johnson, if y'all can give an answer to that.
I think my biggest concern is keeping local control. If you let the General Assembly continue on year after year, they will do what they did with the Rivian plant, buy the property, take the zoning away, and take away local control. Probably some bills now in the State House that will take away local control over data centers, and we will have nothing that we can do about it.
So the overlay zoning is to make sure that it stays with Muskogee County, and Muskogee County is in charge of all
And
the restrictions that are
And it gives you a
associated
voice,
with it.
yes.